Bass with Gav Session 6. I was asked recently about practicing by a relatively new player, so how do I go about structuring my practice? Well, if you think about physical fitness, it can be said that there are three main aspects: strength, conditioning, and flexibility. I mean, you could make it more complicated than that, but that's a reasonable way of looking at fitness. And in the same way as fitness, we're going to break this down into three things. So we're going to look at the hands moving around the bass. So like exercises where you're going one finger per fret, you're just moving around the instrument, you're coordinating left and right hand. So here's one I like to use. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and for new players that might be a problem because that's kind of 7/4 time. So you might want to just do straight fours. It's fine either way. Anything that you can make up, anything you can think, any shapes you can play. I like playing line, diagonal, line, diagonal. So that's quite tricky to finger for a new player. So, you can stick to 3 notes. Descending is generally harder than ascending. So you're working and getting that coordination. If anything hurts, just like physical training, especially when you're a beginner, if anything hurts, you stop. It's much the same playing music. If your fingertips are getting a bit sore, that's one thing. But, if your wrist is hurting, your fingers are cramping, you really need to chill for a minute, shake it off. Consider if you're a bit tense in your technique. Maybe go a bit higher at the neck where string spacing, fret spacing is a lot narrower. It's a lot easier, especially if you've got little hands. The second part, that was the first part, it was the physical movement. The second part, rhythmic. I haven't got a drum machine plugged in, so I'm just going to use my mouth, but getting a beat going and seeing you can lock in with it. It's just you and a drummer, okay? So it was just you. Now it's just you and a drummer. So you're getting a beat going, you're sitting on the bass drum as best you can. So how do you get a beat going? There's hundreds and hundreds of free online drum machines and web browsers and what have you. It's absolutely easy to find one. They're a lot of fun to play with, and then try different placements of beats, make crazy beats and then play patterns over it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way of being able to play different rhythms and come up with different rhythms that might not be natural to you, that you can then internalize and make natural to you. So that's the rhythmic aspect, which is vital for playing in a band. No one wants a sloppy bass player. Thirdly, the final one would be scales and patterns and chords. So chord-wise on the bass, generally you arpeggiate it. So a C major chord doesn't sound too wonderful on a bass, but you can play it one note at a time, and you can shift up and down the octaves. And then once you've got the kind of triad thing down, you can put pentatonics on chords. So you want to be actually playing to a chord. Now, I haven't got enough hands to do this, but I'll give it a shot. Okay, so I don't know if that came through the mic at all, really, but what I was doing is I had a chord going and I was playing over it. What you would want is an app like Chordbot, or even just program it in GarageBand or whatever software you have available. Get a chord going and vamp over it, which just means improvise and run with it and come up with different things. If you are relatively new and you don't know any scales, well, look some up, learn them, get them into your playing. So you start with a major scale, minor scales, all that kind of stuff, and then you can start looking at modes, and then like crazy kind of Different kinds of scales from all around the world. Start putting that together, and the more scales you have, the more sonic palettes your ear will recognize, and the more things you'll feel melodically and be able to bring out. So yeah, that's my tip for structuring a session. So you start with hand coordination exercises. You move on to putting together bass lines over beats, and then finally you work with chords, you work with scales, you do that kind of stuff. So you might pick a scale, or you might just pick one chord, have a chord going, and then improvise a bass line out of chord tones. So you can see that each part of the practice builds, and actually you can do it all in one. In the same way as you can kind of do CrossFit and do everything at once, you can get everything in at once if you have a beat going, you have some chords going, and you're playing rhythmically, you're opening your hands out, you're doing all that kind of stuff. But also, like bodybuilding, you might want to focus on a single exercise, get maximum value, maximum squeeze out of each rep, put the brain in the muscle, as Arnold would have said, and that gives you maximum benefit, and you're really focusing, you're maxing out on one area. So yeah, you want to do some broad and shallow stuff, and you want to do some narrow and deep stuff, and keep it fresh. Just keep looking for ideas, keep trying different things, listening to different music and listening to different players, and don't just take what I say, try your own stuff, But I hope that's helpful.